Bienvenidos al Navegante. En el programa de hoy navegaremos por la vida de Mick Garris. Santa Mónica, California, fue su cuna. Un entusiasta del cine de terror que creció imaginando historias de brujas y monstruos. Stephen King fue su musa durante los primeros años, adaptando sus novelas al cine. Su obra cumbre la consiguió con la serie Masters of Horrors. El Navegante recibe a uno de los directores y guionistas de terror más importantes. Quién sabe si descubrirá un nuevo escenario aterrador en nuestro barco. No tenemos tiempo que perder, así que viento en popa a toda vela. Mick Garris, es usted todo un icono del cine de terror. Bienvenido al Navegante, es un placer para nosotros tenerla aquí.
Muchas gracias, it's wonderful to be here.
Me gustaría que hablásemos un poco sobre esta frase. El mundo tiene dientes y puede morderte en cualquier momento. Es de Stephen King. ¿Qué piensa al respecto?
Es verdad. It's very true. Stephen King is a very intelligent man. And he has a way with words, which is why he's the most successful writer of all time. And that's a very true statement. And I think it's probably the philosophy behind every horror story and every horror movie, is the world is a dangerous place. And we face those fears and come out stronger.
¿Ha mordido el mundo a Mick Garris?
Yes. I think everybody suffers pain and tragedy. Just a couple of months ago, I lost one of my sisters. I've lost two brothers besides that, both of my parents. So you can't avoid death. You can't avoid sadness. You can't avoid tragedy. But what you can do is try to turn it into something positive. Try and become a deeper and more sensitive and more caring individual, and a deeper and more sensitive artist as well through that. But I've always said human being first, filmmaker second. And I think that's a really important rule of humanity. You know, who you are as a person matters more than what you do as an artist.
No se puede evitar el sufrimiento, como bien ha dicho, y es parte de la vida. Pero a mí también me gustaría preguntarle si usted ha mordido el mundo, si usted se ha comido el mundo, si lo siente así.
I do like to bite back, yes. I think horror creators are people who fight the madness, you know, who most people I know who write and direct horror books or movies have been the outsider, have felt the pain of not being a part of the society, have felt loss deeply, and the way of dealing with it is to fight back. The world can be cruel or it can be very kind and very welcoming. It's both those things. And so I think an artist appreciates that, whether he's a painter or an actor or a singer or a writer or a filmmaker. And the way to achieve a level of sanity is to confront those tragic parts of life and to, punch back a little bit with your work.
¿Por qué no se ha dedicado a otro género que no sea la ciencia ficción? ¿O por qué eligió la ciencia ficción, que ha marcado toda su carrera, una gran carrera, y no otro género, drama, humor, romance?
To me, it's very personal. Horror is something that you confront in a very personal way. The fears that I have, chances are you have them too. I mean, maybe you're afraid of spiders and I'm afraid of snakes or something like that. Fear is... First of all, it has to be great drama first. A horror movie that is just all about blood and guts, you forget about it tonight. You watch it once and you're done. But something that reaches you deeply and personally, in Nightmare Cinema, my story is about a young boy who is close to death. He loses both of his parents, and he's dead and comes back to life on the operating table. And his mother, who is dead, he sees the ghost of his mother. She wants him to die so that they can be together forever in the afterlife. And I think that's something really emotional and human. And those are the stories that to me resonate the most. And I think writers write because they can't choose not to. You know, it becomes just a reflection of who you are inside. And horror to me resonates more deeply than just drama. because it's got to be good drama first, or the horror doesn't matter.
Hablabas de un argumento de un hombre, de un chico que moría y volvía a la vida. Digamos, es una manera de explicar mediante el arte lo que es resurgir, ¿no? ¿Ha tenido usted la sensación en algunos momentos de la vida de que tenía que resurgir, de que tenía que involucrarse en otros proyectos, en otro tipo de cosas diferentes a lo que estaba haciendo?
Yeah, the whole course of my creative life is to continue to evolve. I didn't think I would want to direct television series, episodes of somebody else's TV show. But just the last few years, I've done a couple of Once Upon a Time episodes dealing with something entirely new, fairy tales and things. And I directed the most emotional scene I've ever made in 30 years as a director for a TV show that wasn't my own. I write books. I do a podcast. I used to be a musician. I want to constantly evolve. I want to learn all the time. I don't ever want to be stagnant. I don't want to stay the same in 2018 that I was in 2008 or 1998. I always want to be evolving as both a filmmaker and as a human being and as an artist. The reason I do my podcast is because I learn from everybody I've ever interviewed. And I've been doing interviews since the 1970s. When I was a kid, I interviewed Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin. I was a music journalist. And I learned a lot from them when I was a musician.
Me decía que ha tenido el placer o el gusto de trabajar con muchísimos artistas, de conocer a mucha gente. Yo supongo que eso también son los beneficios y la propia belleza de su profesión y de su carrera, ¿no?
Oh, one of the great things about what I get to do as a filmmaker is every day I'm surrounded by creative people. Not just the actors, not just writers, producers, whatever, but the crew, a cameraman who teaches me new insights about vision and art and composition, musicians who create the score. Film is the ultimate art form. It has everything from costume design to painting to music to pacing, editing, cinematography, performance, writing. It's all there. And so it's exciting every minute of every day when I do that job. When I'm writing, I'm entirely by myself. It's very lonely and it's a totally other job. And when I'm writing books, it's the same thing. I'm sitting in my office by myself in front of a keyboard. But it's also very inspiring. But when you're actually shooting, the movie is actually being made, that's the most exciting time. And surrounded by just a frenzy, it's like a beehive of activity, but it's a beehive of creative activity.
Si le damos la vuelta al cartel, tenemos una palabra que me gustaría que me dijese qué significa para usted, es en este caso el reconocimiento.
Interesting choice of words. Well, recognition to me means being cognizant, being aware of everything that's around you, to not ignore the inputs of the world, to not ignore sadness or joy or any of the emotions, to soak them up like a sponge, to be able to process them not only in your own humanity and in the way it deals with your life and how you deal with other people, but as a creative person, as an artist, as a filmmaker, as a writer, to recognize and not block off emotions. A lot of times people put up a wall so they don't get hurt. But if you put up that wall not to get hurt, then it doesn't let the good stuff in either. And I think experience matures you in very interesting and necessary creative and humanitarian ways.
Solemos hablar siempre del éxito, de los triunfos y de lo positivo, ¿no? Pero no hablamos mucho de los fracasos, de esos tropiezos que hay en la vida. A mí me gustaría preguntarle si alguna vez se ha sentido incomprendido, si ha sentido que su manera de crear, su proceso de creación, su arte, no era comprendido por el gran público.
Well, if an audience doesn't understand my work, it's not the audience's fault, it's my fault. I have had very successful films and television shows, and I've had some very unsuccessful ones. But for whatever reason, the audience did not connect with that, or the material did not connect with the audience. The movie that's most personal to me is a little film called Riding the Bullet, and it's based on a Stephen King story, but only partly. There was a lot of my own life put into it, and nobody saw it. And it's it's important to me to express myself in the work, but that there have been other things that have been unsuccessful, and those mean just as much to me as the successes. But when you reach an audience with something like The Stand, which was Apocalypso, which was the most successful miniseries in history in the US, that's incredibly exciting and really important, and you know that you've connected with people. And I wrote the movie Hocus Pocus years ago, and now it's the most successful Halloween movie ever. But the ones that mean a lot to me personally, like Riding the Bullet and other things I've done in the past that haven't connected, they're every bit as important, but they also make you realize that you can't only try to make something successful. You have to try and make something that has your heart and soul in it. And then you hope to be able to find an audience, and if you can't blame the audience. It's like a comedian who tells a joke and nobody laughs. He thinks the audience is shitty. It's just a joke that nobody appreciated. Maybe your joke wasn't very good, or maybe the same thing with a movie. So it hurts because you do it for public consumption, and when they don't appreciate or understand it, you just have to accept it and hopefully grow from that.
Después de todo este tiempo, ¿se siente una persona exitosa? ¿Está satisfecho con su recorrido en la vida?
I would consider myself a very happy person. I am also a very lucky person. I feel that I've been able to make my living doing what I love the most, writing books, making movies, working with people like Stephen King and Steven Spielberg and John Carpenter and Tobe Hooper and Clive Barker, and being able to continue working as long as I have in this very special and unique genre that is not particularly respected. So it depends on how you define success, but I wouldn't change a thing about my life. You know, I'm very, very fortunate and very pleased to have the life I'm lucky enough to lead. I'm a guest here at a festival in the Canary Islands that I would not have otherwise been able to do. So how could that be bad?
Mick Garris, gracias por acompañarnos en El Navegante. Tengo que decirle que ha sido un placer hablar con usted y quiero destacar de verdad la verdad que transmite a través de esos ojos azules que tiene y que me parece maravillosa, igual que la conversación que hemos tenido. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to be here, and those were great questions.